Hello, everyone. Let's talk about how to get that ring. Okay, you're in a relationship, you guys have been together for a while, and you want to get married, but for whatever reason, it hasn't happened yet. Well, don't worry. That's okay. Today, I'm going to give you a very simple two-step process to work through this so you and your partner can be on the same page and move forward to that next step in a long-term relationship. But before we get there, before I start talking about this process, the one thing I please want you to remember is don't be mad at your partner. Don't be upset. Don't think that they're doing something against you or that they may have cold feet. It's not a you versus them problem. It's a we want to take the next step. How do we do this together? And regardless of why you guys haven't gotten married, it doesn't matter. What I'm about to tell you will take any reason into account. But please, just don't go into it upset. Wait until you're feeling calm before talking about this with your partner. Okay, so just a little bit of backstory. A lot of people are waiting longer to get married these days, and that's fine. That's their choice. Some people never get married. Hey, okay, good for them. But some people want to have that extra layer of commitment, and some people want to go ahead and take that next step. I did. I got married when I was 21, and then I got married again when I was 46. I did it twice. I like being in a marriage. It makes me feel good. I enjoy it. Just a couple of simple numbers real quick so you know that you're not out in left field, not having gotten married yet. It's perfectly normal. Research has shown that the median age for marriage these days is 30 years old for guys and 28 years old for girls, and that's the highest it's ever been, much higher since our parents' generation. Then some studies are showing that millennials won't even get married until after 40. But you want to get married, it hasn't happened yet, let's fix that. So, like I said, this is a two-step process. The very first step, the very first thing you have to do is figure out what that problem is. This is the information gathering step. Now, you may already know, you and your partner may have already talked about this, but let's go ahead and I'm going to tell you how to talk about this and get it out in the open in a constructive manner to set the stage for what comes next. So pretend you're at ground zero. Pretend you have no information. You have no idea what's going on, even though you may. Let's face it. We both know you might, and you probably do. But pretend you don't. Now, there's really only two reasons why you guys haven't gotten married yet. If you're wanting to get married and it hasn't happened, it's only because, one, your partner is comfortable with the status quo, or they're afraid of marriage and they don't want to move forward, they don't want to disrupt anything, and it's a little bit of a fear factor. Or two, they actually have an active reason not to get married. Perhaps their parents got married and ended in an awful divorce. Perhaps they don't believe in the institution of marriage because it's an archaic principle. Whatever that reason is, it doesn't matter. We're going to get past that. This first step is going to be all about communication and setting the ground and setting the stage so you two can build a future life on top of that. And how you do that, the very first thing you're going to do, one night, one day when you guys are calm and things are going well and you're at home together, just wait for the right time when stress is low. Just invite your partner over to the couch, over to the kitchen table, wherever you guys feel comfortable talking, and say, "Hey, babe, I'd love to talk about us in marriage. You got a few minutes?" Or something like, "Hey, sweetheart, can you come over here? I just want to chat about something with you." And make it soft, invite them over. Maybe when they get there on the couch, give them a big hug. Just let them know that you're on their side, reassure them, give a little bit of affection. That goes a long way. Then open up the dialogue. And the next thing to do is ask them why you guys, not why he or she doesn't want to get married, but why you two haven't been married yet. Really, to get through this, you want to make it an us versus marriage issue, not a why don't you want to get married or you versus your partner issue. That's very divisive. That's going to cause a lot of stress. It's much easier and much more constructive if you make it a team effort to overcome a certain obstacle. So when you guys are talking about why you haven't been married yet, start off by asking your partner, why aren't we married? I would love to get married someday. I don't want to put any pressure on you, but just why haven't we gotten there? And see what they say. Now, they're either going to tell you or they're not. And if they tell you, they're going to give their reasons. And that's okay. Listen to them. It's very important. Don't tell them what to do in this step. Don't say, okay, you need to do this or you should feel this way about it. But listen and absorb. Encourage them to talk more and get that out into the open of what they're thinking, what's going through their heads. First of all, actually, there's three reasons why this is very important. You like my three? There's three reasons why this is very important. The first is by them verbalizing their thoughts, it makes it more solid and concrete for them in their own minds as well as for you. A lot of times what we think in our heads is sensical and rational to ourselves, but not to anyone else. Then when we say something, when we put it into words, that requires an extra level of thought that we have to put in. A little bit more cognition is happening, and all of a sudden now it's on the front of their mind instead of maybe this nebulous cloud floating in the back of their mind. But the whole purpose is it makes it real. Second of all, it eliminates any misunderstandings. You may believe you know what your partner's thinking, but we're not mind readers. So we have to be 100% certain we're operating with the correct facts. Then finally, third, having them tell you forces them to think about the issue further and do a little bit more analytical thought and develop out their feelings. So it causes them to dive into this deeper and think about the consequences of marriage versus non-marriage. And instead of having perhaps maybe when they thought about it in the past, it was a thought that they just kind of set aside or didn't put much thought into. Well, this is going to get past that logjam and cause them to really analyze it in detail. And it's going to help them become more true to their own feelings. And they may realize that they don't have a solid reason not to get married. They may see the benefits. And already we're starting to kind of loosen up this roadblock that's existing between you guys and where you want to be. Now, while you're asking questions, there's a very good technique I've learned. You can call it a tip, a trick, a technique, whatever you want. It doesn't matter, but it works. You use the "so you" phrase. You say "so you" back to them, and then you rephrase what they just told you. As an example, let's say to you that they don't want to get married because their parents' marriage ended in a messy divorce. Okay, use "so you" and rephrase that back to them. So you don't want to get married because you saw your parents' marriage end in a very painful way. That's going to cause them to think about it further, what they just said to you, and expand upon it and explain more, which is great. And you can follow up with "so you" as many times as you want. Let's say they come back with, yeah, their divorce was really painful. I was just 6 years old and it hurt me a whole lot and it took me a lot of time to get over that. I really am just not sure about marriage. All right. Good. You've gotten more out of them. You're starting to understand more what their objections are. Now you take what they told you and you rephrase it, starting with "so you," and you say it back to them to get them to speak about it more. You can say something like, "So you are worried about the pain that marriage can cause, and if it ends, it can end tragically and really hurt the people involved." Now you can know when to stop or know when to take a different course when they start to perhaps repeat themselves or they pause or they don't want to answer anymore. That means they put as much thought into it at this time that they can. So if they say the same thing back to you that you've already heard before, let's shift topics, talk about something else. But the idea is to get them to explore it in their mind as far as they can and to give you an idea of what they're feeling. That's going to give you the concrete facts to use for step 2 as soon as we get to that. 2 quick notes about step 1 before we move on. First, when you're asking them the questions, just try not to be passive aggressive. Don't be snippy. Don't let any frustration or anger come through. That's going to shut them down and it's going to kind of muddy the waters and make it a little bit more difficult and take longer to move through this. Finally, if they refuse to talk or they come back at you with silence, that's okay. Let it sit. Let the issue rest. If they say, "I don't want to talk about this," or they simply don't respond to you, okay. They don't have to. Let it sit. Set it aside for now. Come back to it later. Come back to it at another low stress point in your lives. I'd recommend not talking about it again that day, but I would also recommend not letting it go over a week. So between 1 and 7 days, revisit the topic. And it's, again, wait until you guys are low stress, you're enjoying each other's company, and things are just going well. And here's a phrase you can use to bring it back up. Say something like, "Hey, babe, I'd love to just talk a little bit more about what we were discussing the other day. This is really important to me. I don't want to cause any stress, but can we talk about this?" And if they say no, that's fine. Let it sit again for another 1 to 7 days. And just keep repeating that very slowly for as long as it takes until they start to open up. They're not going to be resistant forever. They're not going to not want to talk about it forever. I can promise you that. But it's going to take just very small little nudges to prompt them to open up that dialogue. Not we got to sit down and talk about this. That's not going to help. That's not going to help at all. Be patient, be gentle. Your partner is there. They love you. There's just simply a reason why they haven't opened up and told you yet. Step 2. Step 2 is the acting on the information step. Here, in this step, you're going to take that reason that they gave you in step 1, and what you're going to do is you're going to pull it apart logically and rationally and calmly over time, and you're going to disassemble their argument until it is resolved or until something new comes up. And by talking through it, the two of you are going to do this together by dismantling their reasons for not getting married, you're going to remove the roadblock that's been holding you guys up. And I'll tell you how to do that. It's a very simple process. You're going to have to be patient, but it will work. So as with step one, invite your partner over to just have a chat with you. Wait till your guys are calm. Wait till it's a relaxed day, maybe the weekend, maybe a day off, something like that. Invite your partner over. Invite your partner back over to the couch, put an arm around them again. Invite them over to the kitchen table. Invite them up to chat in bed, sitting up on pillows. It doesn't matter as long as you guys are comfortable. That's what really counts. Now, in the opening phrases, we're already going to be using the information you gathered in a way that's going to build your partner up and also present the reason in a way that you both can take a look at and start to pick apart. So here's a very helpful phrase that you can use. Say something like, "Hey, babe, the other day when we were talking about marriage, I know you said," and then state whatever it was that they told you, a succinct summary of their reason. And I respect that. What that phrase will do is it will get the issue out in the open. It will also make your partner feel heard. A lot of times people don't feel heard and they will stick to whatever it is that they're saying tenaciously because they feel like someone's just trying to ride right over it. You're not. You're trying to bring it right in front of both of you guys. You're trying to bring this issue up and make it known. And you want them to know that you respect their feelings, and you want them to know that you respect their opinions. But you have your own feelings too. Remember, you're half of this relationship. So it's okay for you to have a different view from what they have, but let's figure out how to get these two views in the line. And that's the whole idea behind this. Now, after you've brought it up with that opening phrase, say very clearly and succinctly to your partner how you feel. State how you feel so they don't have to be a mind reader. So for example, after you've said, "Hey babe, I know you said this the other day, and I respect that. But I love the idea of us getting married. I want that to happen more than anything. I really do. I don't want to do it until we have, whatever that reason is, resolved though. I want to make sure that we can do this when it's right for both of us." So when you said the other day that marriage is an arcane institution, or that you saw your parents get married and that ended up in a terrible divorce, I don't want that to happen to us. I don't want you to feel that way and force you to get married. So what can we do about this? Remember, I'm purposely emphasizing the we here because that will plant in your partner's mind. It's a you and them versus the problem issue, not a you versus them issue. Say to them, what can we do about this? Or even if you want to take the ball and put it in your court, how can I make this better? How can I help get over this obstacle so we can get past this? And there's no rush. There really isn't. We can take as long as we need to. I just want to be working down that path with you, babe. I love the idea of spending the rest of my life with you. I really do. See, you're building your partner up while trying to come up with a solution. Now, that conversation can take several different paths, but throughout whatever path your conversation takes, remember to stick together. It's the both of you. And remember to build your partner up whenever possible and express affection. Tell them you love them. People have a really hard time getting upset at someone that is respectfully and maturely saying, "I love you. I want to spend my life with you. I really do." It's hard to get upset at that. It takes some work. It can happen, but it reduces the chances of a blow up. It reduces the chances of another stalemate. And the whole idea behind this step is to come up with a strategy or a series of next steps that you guys can take that will move you towards marriage. Don't expect them to sit down and say, "Oh, you bet, let's go ahead and get married right away." That's not going to happen. But you will start the dialogue and you'll start the process of learning what needs to be done to get you and your partner to that point. So that's the whole idea of the step 2 is to establish a plan. That's all you want to do is you want to make a plan. Then after you make that plan, you just stick to that plan and you work through it until you end up at the altar. Okay, so let's talk about some worst case scenarios. In the best case, your partner explains what you guys can do, and you guys together set up a strategy. But in the worst case scenario, let's say your partner doesn't want to talk about it, or let's say they refuse to change their minds. They're very adamant, they're sticking to their guns, and nothing's going to change their mind. That's fine. That's okay. We'll get by that. It may take a little bit longer, but we'll get by that. If you're met with complete silence and they don't want to talk about it, or they flat out tell you I don't want to talk about it, do what you did in step 1. Set it aside for at least a day, but not longer than 7 days. And at another calm moment in your guys' together time, bring it up again. Patiently, with love, bring up the conversation again. And if it doesn't work, set it aside for another day and repeat and repeat and repeat until eventually they will have that conversation with you and you can start moving forward. Now, let's say they stick to their reason and they absolutely do not want to get married. That's okay. That's fine too. What we're going to do in this situation is we're going to start playing the long game. And by that, I mean, we're going to affirm their reason and we're going to let it stand without trying to undercut it, without trying to tell them it's ridiculous or anything like that. But we're going to respect that reason and we're going to start figuring out ways around it. So for example, let's say they don't want to get married because they've already been married once and it was awful and they don't want to get married again. You know what? That is their right to believe that, respect it, and honor it. Now let's figure out ways that we can start working around that problem. If they refuse to budge, say something to them like, okay, I hear you. I know that you don't want to get married because of, and whatever they just said or whatever the reason is. And you're going to say, okay, I respect that, I honor that, I cherish it. And then you're going to ask them for a solution. Say something like, is there any way with what you said that we could get married? I love you. I don't want you to get married to me until you're ready to, until this is resolved. How can we resolve it? If they tell you a solution, great. If they say there's no way, I'm absolutely not going to get married, okay, you're ready for this. Here's the best way around that. The reason that they gave you has not been not used before. In other words, someone has said it at some time to someone else. In fact, it's probably a pretty common reason, to be honest. Google it. That's right. The answer is out there. Other people have had this experience. They will have posted about it, written about it. Take that, put it into the search engine, and see what strategies they used to resolve that particular problem. But really, Google's going to be your best friend here. You're going to learn how to work through that problem based on what other people have done, because someone will have come up to this problem before. I guarantee you someone has dealt with this before, and someone has also figured out how to get married despite that problem before. Absolutely. Now be patient. Don't rush the other person. Make sure you're getting married for the right reasons, but it's okay to take time to work through this. Do the research on your own. Once you've Googled it, once you've developed a strategy, employ that strategy. Come back to them and open up the conversation again. Affirm their opinion and say, but what if, and then whatever that strategy is, whatever that workaround may be, work into that. Again, if that strategy doesn't work, if what you learned doesn't work, go back to the drawing board, start over, try again. Give it a little bit of time in between efforts, but eventually with enough loving repetition, you will get that ring. You will get married. So just to summarize very quickly, the two-step process. First step, gather information in a very loving, careful, tender way. It's you and your partner versus the problem. Figure out what that problem is. It will allow you guys to have a solid basis to work from. You'll know what that problem is. They will vocalize that problem. And step two, just remember to use what you learned in step one to create a solution or a method or just some sort of plan or strategy to help you work around whatever problem that is. All right, guys, that's it. That's the cliff notes for this very easy two-step process. If you have any other questions or if you need help with specific situations, please just let me know in the comments. All right, thanks, everyone. Have a good day and good luck.